Especially in the game, you get out with what you put into it. It's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well, God, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomás O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Carey. Carey leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high. He's put it over.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
Hello, and you're very welcome along to another episode of Treaty Talk, episode 303. Myself, Tom Clancy, and joined, as always, by the Weekly Observer and Vale Star newspaper reporter, Matt O'Callaghan. And Matthew, how's all with yourself?
Oh, sure, it's good, but we're up to our eyes in matches. But sure, that's what we like, and it's coming to a climax. You know, I know we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago in the context of Adair playing Galtee Gales in a monsoon. We had something similar last Sunday. You were there, Tom, when Newcastle West, when Father Casey's took on Mungret. You know, you wonder about the wisdom of playing games in those sort of conditions, because suddenly kind of football goes out the window. I'll be talking about the game in a few minutes, but I don't know. It's trying, and it's all to do with you know, because I checked it out and I was told it wasn't. The game was standing because it was a yellow warning as distinct from an orange warning, and you know the Met Office will run out of colours one of the days, you know. And I don't know, but you prepare for the whole year. You know, you get to a semi-final, that suddenly becomes the focus of your season. It's your biggest day, and like have to tolerate and go out and play in those sort of conditions. I'm not at all happy with it, Tom. Just as I was unhappy with it there in Galtee Gales, you know. I think it's grossly unfair. I think, but sure, look, we cannot control the weather. That's the unfortunate thing about it. Games have to be played, and like we're in an awful tight schedule, you know, because whoever wins the Premier Junior Hurling Championship, the Premier Intermediate Hurling Championship, and the Senior Hurling Championship this weekend are out the following weekend in the Munster Championship. And the same goes for the football. Whoever will win the junior football, the intermediate football, and the senior football are out the following week again.
Yeah,
so
no time for celebration.
Well, what's it all about? You know, I think it's a downside of the split season. You know, if you get, or have we too many games in the group stages?
That's probably.
I'm not so sure. Last night I had the press evening was on for the 4 football finals. There are actually 5 football finals on the weekend after this. But the point was made to me very firmly by a player who had been out 10 weeks in a row. You know, and you say to yourself, and we hear the people in the Ivory Tower, you know, in Jones's Road, talking about burnout and all this sort of thing. You know, I honestly think, you know, it is very, very easy to allocate the blame to Limerick GA. They have to play the hand that they're given in terms of meeting deadlines for Munster Championship and this unholy desire, you know, to finish everything in the calendar year. So, look, Tom, all I'm saying is, and I'm not going to labour the point any further, it was disappointing, and my heart goes out to both Father Casey's, who won the match by a point, and to Mungret, who had waited 6 weeks from their previous game to play that game on Sunday, and then to be confronted with the the type of conditions that were prevailing on Sunday, I think it's very, very disappointing.
Yeah, and it was the same in the lower grades. There was a couple of other semi-finals on Sunday.
Yes, absolutely. It goes across the board, but I suppose that was our flagship
semi-final,
game on Sunday. But my heart goes out to the juniors, the junior A semi-finalists, and there was a Premier Junior final on as well. A Premier Junior semi-final on as well.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of other games. There was a Junior B semi-final. So they were all confronted with the same thing. So, as I say, you prepare all year. Your whole year is geared to get as far as you can in the championship, and suddenly you realise that you're in a semi-final, and then you're confronted with this at the last minute. But another thing that that should be looked at, I don't ask me what the solution is, and people will say he's great coming up with complaints, but he doesn't have solutions. Like Mungret's situation, Tom, is unsustainable. That they played their last game 6 weeks before the semi-final. They're being penalised getting to the semi-final.
Yeah, we had both. Let's talk about the games, Matt. Anyway, we had both group winners beaten, of course, over the weekend, and they were the teams who were, as you say, waiting in the wings, and it didn't seem to do them any favors. Both of them didn't get off to the best of starts, I would say, under the weather. We'll talk about the champions, Newcastle West, who were beaten for the first time since 2020 in the Limerick Senior Football Championships. Worthy champions, I suppose, in the last 3 years. Obviously, Adair pushed them all the way, but we tip our hats to them for their longevity at the top, which has come to
of course we do, Tom. Sorry, finish.
I'm just saying their longevity at the top has come to potentially only a brief end, but it has come to the end nonetheless. So yeah, they've been fantastic champions.
Absolutely fantastic champions, and I would say it hasn't come to an end. It has paused, I would imagine, because if you take the situation, and this is not to detract from Adair's victory, but some excellent football on the day. Like Ian Corbett is the talisman. He's the spiritual leader of that Newcastle West team, and then they were struck a blow with Rudon O'Connor, and they will be back on board next year, and that there is word going around that Cian Sheehan might be back in the squad next season. So it's only a pause for Newcastle West, but it was the 2 goals before half time, Tom, and you were there with me, sure. That I think proved crucial. And if you look back on it, Adair went 9 points clear after those 2 goals. Newcastle West hit back immediately with 3 points to bring it back to 6 by half time. And you were saying to yourself, look, the revival is on. Or did the halftime break stifle the revival? There's no doubt about it. Newcastle West had the better of the second half. No question about it. And they reduced the margin eventually to 4 points. But I think if they were there till now, I don't know, would they have made further inroads in it? Because I think their defence, I thought, was absolutely magnificent. The way they closed out the game.
Yeah.
Paul Maher was driving everything from midfield. And when the gap was closed, Tom, I don't think at any stage we felt that Adair were going to be beaten on Sunday.
Yeah, they get it back
on Saturday.
Get back
they
to
were
4-1.
primed for it.
Yeah, no, they were absolutely up for it as well, and it was the 2 quick goals. It's sometimes a very simple analysis of it. That was the difference. However, Adair had played with such a purpose in that first half. They played with such a kind of, I wouldn't say abandon, but they played with such kind of desire to, I suppose, in their eyes, maybe right the wrongs of the last couple of years. Because if you look at the three finals they'd lost to Newcastle West, they'll feel they left 2 of them behind them. It took a last kick of the game to draw the one in Kilmallock, and there was a plethora of mistakes at times in last year's final in very damp conditions that kind of undid their good work, and they were still within a 45 of drawing it, if memory serves me. Like, I mean, they'll feel that they have been thereabouts. Well, obviously have, but they'll feel that this is their time now to collect another one out of another hurdle to jump. But they play with such
they've 7. They have this is their 7th final in 8 years, which is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
You must remember that this is a club that made the breakthrough at senior level in 2018, wasn't it?
2017 was it, or
17? 2017.
Yeah.
You know, they've won 3 since, and they've lost 3.
Yeah.
You know, but it's phenomenal. A 7th final in 8 years. My God, you know, and you're right, and Chris pointed out to me last night, you know, how close they were in two of the 3 years.
Yeah. Even the one I didn't mention there, Matt, they were level. Was it one of the Gaelic rounds? I'm going to call it the AJ O'Connor final because he turned the game. They were level. Was it 4 points each after 45 minutes? And Newcastle West found the gear that they didn't. You know, that was it. So I mean, they were never beaten out of sight in any of those 3 finals. Like, I mean, we must acknowledge they've been so consistent for so long. But they certainly played with that desire they needed to overturn the champions. There was a clear hunger with them. I'm not saying Newcastle West weren't hungry, but Adair certainly played with a hunger that you need, you know, at this level of football.
Yeah, there might maybe a small bit of lack of leadership, maybe in the part of Newcastle West, the loss of Ian Corbett, like in a situation like that. If you're in a trench, and when Newcastle West are in a trench, if there's anyone to get you out of it, he's the man, you know. And it was heartbreaking for Newcastle West to see himself and Rudon O'Connor like just on the sideline, you know, unable to participate and help the team out. So, but you know, there is no way any of this can detract from what was a very consummate Adair performance overall, and a very efficient Adair performance. And like you had the Burke brothers caused an awful lot of problems for Newcastle West in the first half. Now Hugh got 1 goal, Robbie made it, and the 2 of them were in the build-up for Shane O'Connor's goal. Yeah. You know, so you could say to yourself, that's a day's work done at half-time, you know, nearly. But
it was the defence in the second half, Matt, because the long direct ball to Mike McMahon, and we met him Sunday, and you know, he's, as everyone in the county knows, what a towering figure he is. We'll talk about him in terms of hurling later, like, but they cut off the ball to him, and the ball that did go into him, they were able to snuff it out because, you know, they crowded it, or they dealt well with the delivery. And you know, there's been plenty of teams that fell to that ploy from Newcastle West down the last years.
Yeah, first of all, they denied him clean possession when it came in. And, you know, David Connolly was absolutely outstanding in watching the breaks off him. Instead of one of his own players, for David Connolly, I thought David Connolly was outstanding at fullback. You know, he was an outstanding game. But it took... Mike McMahon is quite a handful now, and he got a couple of points, got a couple of good points. And, you know, the second point that we're saying he flicked over, you know, he could very easily have flicked that under.
There was one in either half, wasn't there? There was one.
There was one in each half, but the first half was kind of clear cut over, like. But the one in the second half could just as easily have flicked under, you know.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. So they're back into the final now. As you said about the weather already, I tell you, it was nearly t-shirt weather in the Ball Garden on Saturday afternoon, but it was eventually started raining cats and dogs in Newcastle West on Sunday for the second one. Now we were in the luxurious position of having a facility that we do not take. We do not ignore the facility of the press box in Newcastle West, because there was driving wind and rain out there. Good crowd in for it. This was all about the result for either team. There was no time for stylish football. It was all about the result. And in fairness to Father Casey's, they dug it out. You know, they scored once in the 20 odd minutes of play. They got over the line, 9 points to 8. Won't be remembered for its for being a classic, but in fairness to Mungers, they could have so easily thrown in the towel, and they conceded, I think, 4 points in a row, but they didn't. They stuck to it. Hit the post a couple of times late on. Had a wide with the last kick of the game that, you know, another day would fly over. Like, I mean, you know, a very, very intriguing game between two teams, I suppose, desperate to get back to a final, having been many years without getting to the showpiece, you know.
Yeah. But Adrian Enright, you must remember, was unlucky not to have a couple of goals.
Yeah, one cleared off the line by a defender, wasn't it? Yeah, the
I
fullback.
think it was Rob Hegarty actually got
Rob
his
Hegarty,
boot,
yeah.
or got his body to it anyway to get it off the line. But
Yeah.
But having said that, like there's huge credit due to both of these teams, you know, because the manner in which they set out to play football.
Yeah.
Like for a lot of the game, they tried to play the football that they'd play on top of the ground.
Yeah.
In fairness, you know, it wasn't because the skies were open and Ashley was blowing all over the place that they abandoned what their football principles were. You know, and I thought, considering the conditions, Tom, and I think we agreed like that there were good patches in it.
There was, yeah.
You know, like when you said that they got 4 in a row, they actually got 5 in a row because if you recall, Mungo St. Paul's were 3 points up at halftime. Now it didn't, and they were after playing with the Gale, and John Hutton kicked an absolutely magnificent point within 30 seconds of the restart, probably the point of the game. Newcastle West. Their Father Casey's went down and they got 5 points in a row. They played some very, very neat and tidy football during that spell, you would have to admit, you know. And like, I suppose it was down to the conditions. There was no score from the 38th minute to the 53rd from either side.
Yeah.
You know, but you could say it was the conditions. But that's only partly true. Because it was that the sides cancelled each other out.
Yeah,
you know, on a fine day, you might have a similar situation.
Yeah.
You know,
there were certainly
two extremely well-matched sides. And like this was, you know, they lost the game, Mungo did. You know, this was their biggest test, you know, you know, they won their 5 games in the group. And this was their biggest test, the knockout game against one of the big 3, you know. And as far as I'm concerned, in terms of football, you know, and where they're at, they passed the test, even though they lost the match.
Yeah, no, they did. Yeah. What about the we've plenty still to discuss, but finally on this game, what about the Eli Reardon free? I mean, wind or no wind, like he's 6 inches in off the sideline. I actually, if you recall, Matt, I went out of the press box because the view was a little bit obstructed with all the patrons in the ground. I went out to have a look at it, like, and his whole subs bench behind him. And we forget with Eli Reardon because when you look at him, he looks like a seasoned veteran in terms of he's a big, powerful young man. He was under 20s last season, wasn't he? I mean, like, he's a very young player. He nailed the free off the ground, on the sideline. You know, beautiful strike of the ball, like, and that put them 2 up. And
it put them 2 up. And you said to yourself, now here is the drive for home. But Mungret were having none of it.
Yeah. And Mungret, you kind of felt then late on, Mungret needed the goal. They didn't know, they kind of half went for one and nearly got it, but they actually kicked the points soon after.
I think, was it James Garvey that had the shot? Blocked,
we couldn't figure out who had it, but
they rebounded up in the air. I don't know who got his fist to it, but
they hit the top post and the bottom post. Yeah. I mean, very unlucky. Very unlucky not to profit somewhat from there, but I think Mungret, given the age profile and given the quality they've shown in this season's championship, I think they're going to be in and around that business end for the next couple of seasons. It's fair to say, you know, they're only going to go one way, I think, in terms of their performance level, because, you know, this year was a new year for them at the grade.
Tom, you and I had great expectations for Mungret at the start of the year. We were saying that they had the capacity to upset the status quo of the usual 4 in the last 4, and by God did they do it. We're not one bit disappointed. Not one bit disappointed. And as I said, last Sunday was their biggest test, and even though they lost the match, they passed the test. If it comes to their suitability and their ability to compete at the highest level, they passed that with flying colours. But we cannot forget Father Casey's.
Yeah,
you know,
first final since 2009.
First final in 15 years.
Yeah,
you know, and like Father Casey's, like Owen Joy made the point to us after, Tom, if you remember, about the similarities between Father Casey's and Mungret. in their style of play and in their approach to the game. And he's absolutely correct. You know, they have been very exciting to watch. I saw him winning the Senior League final this year. You know, they beat Newcastle West in it, and both sides were short considerable players. No, Newcastle West were short all county players, and I think they were shot up to 10. Other cases were shot 7. That kind of a thing. It was a shadow thing, you know. But the real business came 2 weeks after when they met in the championship, and like it was gung ho, full strength both sides, very very little in it, and then Father Casey's, you know, quickly dressed themselves down, got going in the championship, had a very good phase group, you know, had a very comfortable win over the Piershick in the quarter final, and then came up last Sunday, and you know, you'd have to say like Mungra threw the kitchen sink at them at times, and they responded.
They did,
you know. So Father Casey's are worthy finalists.
Yeah. They're after equaling the record match for final appearances, or they will equal it when they play it in the history of the championship. So it's to be their 25th final. They've won 8 and lost 16 as of now. So one of that will change. But so I mean they join who is this? Clahan, who have also appeared in 25 finals. So there's a bit of the history lesson for this afternoon's podcast. But their contribution to Limerick football continues to go on. But we're looking down the grades, Matt. The grade below that, of course, the intermediate championship. Drum Broadford's quest for another final appearance came up short. Galbally getting the better of them, and Rathkeil got over Clahan. So 2 games that I think it tied it open up leads, but were kind of hauled back in. I suppose they were Saturday when the weather was a little bit better as well. But that's going to be a tasty enough final. I think 2 sides have already met in the group stages. Galbally against Rathkeil.
Yeah, they've met in the group stages. I think there was 3 points in it. They met in the league final, and Galbally won it comfortably. The group phase, Rathkeil won it. Now, obviously, the 2 games were on at much the same time on Sunday, or Saturday, so I didn't get a chance to see Drum Broadford and Galbally because I was allocated back west. I was at the Rathkeil Clahan game, and you know, the sides having drawn in the first round, when the team news came in from Rathkeil, I thought they were going to be really under pressure because Brian Meade had cried off, Paul White had cried off, and Barry Coleman had cried off.
Yeah, three of their most talented and experienced players in a lot of ways.
Three, absolutely. Like if Tahan were looking for 3 Rathkeil players to be missing, they'd probably be the 3. Like you know,
that's the best way of putting it, I think. Yeah.
You know, but they put on a first half performance that was outstanding. That was absolutely outstanding. Now they had the assistance of a breeze that blew down towards the road in Askeaton, and you know, but it was a breeze that fluctuated, and they got a goal very early on. Pat Wilmot got a goal very early on, I suppose. There was 3 minutes gone and they were 1-1 up. Mikey Morrissey got a point in the very first minute. Then Pat Wilmot got a goal. But the football they played in the first half was very, very good. I think it was something like 1-7 or 1-6 to 3 points at half time. And now Clahan for a period in the second half looked as if they were going to make a match of it. They banged over 3 or 4 or 5 points, you know, and they closed the gap. But Barry Coleman came in then, and Barry really steadied the ship. I thought he got a great point, and I think his mere presence on the field was a huge boost to him. You know, if you see your top guy coming off the bench and you're looking for home, you see the winning line. It was huge, and as I say, he announced his introduction with a very, very good point. Now, who the very good game was Andrew White. I think he kicked about 4 points, and Andrew Meade at centre forward. These are going to be handfuls in the county final, and Now, as I say, I know very little about the other semi-final, other than that Galway got a couple of goals. Jamie Morrissey got a couple of goals before half-time. It gave him a cushion, as you would expect from Broadford, and I'd expect no less. You know, the great club and tradition that they're building back there. They really came back in the second half, but were unable to close the gap.
Yeah. So it sets up a repeat of the 2018 final?
A repeat of the 2018 final, and Rathkeelas won the county championship in 2013 with one of the finest displays of football that I have seen in any county final, when they beat Ula in Bruff in the intermediate final. They have subsequently lost the 2018 final to Galway, and they've lost the 2021 final to Kildimo Palace Kenry when they were raging hot favourites.
Yes, they'll be hoping for third time lucky, I suppose, this time around in terms of county final appearances. So that's to look forward to. Just a roundup, I suppose. As Matt said, we've possible to get to all these games at the weekend, given the amount of them that there was. But the Premier Junior final will be between Atay, Atay and Kappa. Atay needed extra time to get over Monaghay, while Kappa were too strong for Fina Kilmeady on Saturday. And the grey below heartbreak for Ballylanders, Matt, but Ahan proving much too strong for them, as Gary Brennan's influence starts to show its presence. And I did see a certain Dan Morrissey as well lined out of midfield. So Ahan into the final, and it'll be an all-East affair against Fedamore, who got the better of neighbours Camogie Rovers. Both of those played on Saturday. The Junior B final, Matt, sorry, I don't have the pairing. St. Kieran's and Mungret St. Paul's, isn't it?
St. Kieran's and Mungret St. Paul's. Mungret St. Paul's beat Knockaderry, and St. Kieran's beat Brewery. Knockaderry earlier in the week, they had 2 games in about 4 days. They beat Ula in the quarter-final. It was played in Doon under lights.
Yeah, Wednesday, wasn't it? Yeah.
Possibly Monday night. Then they were back down into the semi-final on Saturday, and they lost the semi-final to Mungret St. Paul's.
Okay. So,
and St. Kieran's had a very big win over Brewery. But I can imagine at this time of the year, in the circumstances of Brewery have their focus elsewhere, I think.
On the small ball, yeah.
And it is very much on McNeville Park next Saturday evening at 5:00.
Yeah, certainly is. Yeah, so that's the rundown of the men's football. Ladies football, Matt.
Ladies football, I suppose the big talking point of the week would be St. Ailbe's big win in the first round of the Munster Championship. They went to Nadesha and they won by 5-16 to 4 points. It sets up a semi-final now, kind of nearly a local semi-final actually, because they'll be playing Tipperary champions Kappa White.
Right. Just over the border.
That far over the road from Ballybricken and Carrickmanish, you know. So that is that. Now there were 4 finals on in Limerick. The domestic program in Limerick is now closed. Monaleen beat Palace Green in the Junior A final. In the Junior B final, Galtee Gales beat Mungret St. Paul's with the help, I'm understanding, from our colleague Sive, with 2 late penalties. In the C final, Knockkenny got over Ula, whilst in the novice final, Drumculloch Broadford made it a senior B and a novice double when they beat Old Mill.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to them. I don't think, Matt, the time is with us to get into it, but Mungret are lining out this weekend. There's all sorts of chatter online about when we're talking now Wednesday evening, where this game is going to be on. But nevertheless, they're playing Abbey Dorney in their semi-final of the Munster Junior Club Championship. So that's their reward, obviously, for winning the intermediate title in Limerick. So look, big chance for Mungret there, but there's probably it's the off-the-field stuff that's dominating in the build-up to this one.
It is. Now the situation is that Mungret or Abbey Dorney beat in the Munster Junior Club's Football Championship. They beat Mine Temple 2 last weekend, and they're down on Saturday.
Early Saturday, yeah.
They're down on Saturday at 1:00, I think, to play Mungret St. Paul's in the Munster semi-final. Now, there are 10 of their players involved between Killiard, who are down to play Croke Kilfinney, also on Saturday in the Munster Club's Camogie Championship. And more of the players are involved with Clonmorris, who are due to play the Tipperary champions, and all the games are within 2 hours of each other. And I would appeal, for God's sake, for common sense to prevail, on this one. Like, it isn't doing any good for the Ladies Football Association. It's doing no good for the Camogie Association. It's doing no good for the promotion of either games. It is doing no good when it comes to burnout. And I would appeal to him, for God's sake, to go away and resolve it and let us know what's happening.
Yeah.
Because as of now, Mungret are due to play Abidorney, and a few miles down the road, Croke Kilfinney are due to play Killiard in Kilmiley.
Yeah,
how it could come to this, I don't know. I thought the system of hurling 1 week, Camogie the next week works very well, but this is 2 weeks in a row that there's been football.
Yeah. Someone somewhere has decided that this was their date, and they weren't getting out of the way for anyone. I don't know. It's not great. The Kerry ladies Gaelic football chairperson and the Camogie chairperson, I believe, have signed a joint letter to resign from their positions. I think they're in frustration more than anything, I think, with it, because obviously this is a Munster issue in terms of the provincial councils trying to arrange the fixtures anyway. But look, it's something that Mungers have had no.
Well, what annoys me is that a situation like this should arise. But what annoys me more is that there are 2 Limerick clubs involved in it.
Yeah, that's
to
it.
No fault of their own whatsoever.
Just took the words out of my mouth. Yeah, they've become embroiled in it for no apparent reason.
No apparent reason. Who won good County Limerick championships.
Yeah.
And we're both looking forward, and I had spoken to both clubs about them looking forward to the Munster campaign.
Yeah.
And it is a pity that this thing is sullied by this kind of stuff like that. They just can't go out and play their Munster clubs game without all this veil of uncertainty that's going around about it.
Yeah. Well, look, nevertheless, we're wishing Mungers and St. Paul's and Croke Kilfinney the best in those fixtures.
Of course.
Yeah. When they're played, we're not 100% sure at this moment, so do keep an eye out for that. And where they'll be played is probably potentially up in the air too. Matt, have we any other?
Of course, you see, there's a resolution to it, Tom, because this is a bank holiday weekend.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But look, there's in fairness to the Limerick clubs, they were given the fixture, and in good faith, players make arrangements, logistics, work, and everything.
The Limerick clubs,
it's not on them to completely change their program just to facilitate something that has nothing to do with them. Yeah. Okay. Have we anything else, Matt, on the Camogie front locally? I know there's so many games swirling around my head, but that's the main one in your Croke Kilfinney.
Just in the Camogie, this week is we'll see the semi-finals of the Junior A, B Cup. I have to think about it. Cup and plates. No saucer, as you say. I can tell you that the Junior A semi-final sees Ballybrown, your own Ballybrown. Did you know that, Tom?
Yep, I did, of course. They're playing Blackrock Effin, isn't it?
Playing Blackrock Effin, and you've St. Ailbe's and Doon in the other one. But there are 2 plate semi-finals as well. I think Fianna Kilmeady are playing Newcastle West in one of them. I can't think of the other. There are the B semi-finals as well. But there are 2 very important games on. Also, apart from the junior, there's the replay of the senior Camogie relegation playoff between Crocora and Monaghan. That was a draw 2 weeks ago. So they go at it again this time on Sunday in Cappamore, and there has to be a result. And there is the intermediate relegation final between Galway and Maru-Bohor. I think it's on in Cahardavin, if my memory serves me correct.
Yeah, and I suppose all these are subject.
It's a busy weekend in Limerick Camogie, and but the situation in Limerick Camogie with regard to the domestic programme will be very clear cut after this weekend. You'll have the relegations out of the way. You'll be down to the finals of the Junior A Cup and Plate, Junior B Cup and Plate. Now I need to get an update on the 12-a-side.
Okay, yeah. Well, in fairness to Emer, do keep an eye on the Limerick Camogie socials. She'll have all the fixtures up there, I'm sure. We're bound to be joined imminently by Joe Quaid to discuss all things hurling. But Matt, plethora of finals before we get into the teeth of them, all across the grades. The top 5 grades, isn't it? I think 5.
Yeah, 5
We've
grades. There's 5 finals, and I've no doubt it'd be 6 if we were ready for the Junior B Championship.
Yeah.
Now, at face value, you can say you would be very critical of it.
Yeah.
But if you were of the mindset that you wanted to see all 5 games, there is a facility there for you to see them because the way they're spaced out. For instance, you have Redkeel and Monadine playing in Kilmallock in Bruff at 12:30 in the Junior A final.
Yeah.
And in the Premier final is on at 3:00 in Sean Finn Park in Redkeel. And when that is over, this is all Saturday. When that is over, you can pop across to McNeville Park, where at 5:00 you'll get to see Brewery and Croke Kilfinney. Then, of course, we have the double fixture in the Gaelic grounds on Sunday. So, whilst it might not be ideal that there would be 5 finals on in the one weekend,
it's doable.
There's no point in anybody coming on to me cribbing and saying to me, my season ticket and all this sort of thing. There is a facility there to see all 5.
There is. Okay, well, Joe Quaid has just joined us. We'll bring him into the studio. Joe, how's life?
All good now.
How are you, Joe?
How are you, Matt?
I'm good.
What other way would you be?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the only way to be on the Wednesday evening when the evenings are getting shorter. Joe, we're just mentioned there, you probably heard us when you joined in the background there. 5 finals. If people are interested in hurling, this is the weekend for them across Limerick. They can take their pick. They can probably, as Matt says, they can probably pick them all, but there's no shortage of drama and excitement, I'm sure, ahead between Saturday and Sunday in Limerick.
No, it is a festival of hurling the weekend, and I suppose people will be torn which ones they'll go to. Obviously, the people support their own clubs, but I suppose the neutral, some of the best matches. I think I commentated on the junior final last year, and it was probably one of the best matches of the year. So just because it's senior or junior or intermediate, it doesn't guarantee a great final. So it could be the one we least expect could produce the best drama, the best excitement, and the best atmosphere.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Joe, it's interesting that you should say that now, because Tom and I did commentary on the intermediate final.
Is at the same time as that junior final, isn't it?
It was, yeah.
An absolutely cracking game. And you did the junior game was a cracking game. The Premier Intermediate game was unforgettable.
Yes.
The only poor game was the senior game.
So,
yeah, you're right there, Joe.
As you rightly say, you don't know what to expect until it all happens, unfolds.
It must be the matches we go to, so Matt.
Must be.
Yeah. They start performing when Joe and Matt are around, is it?
Exactly.
Yeah, let's look at the game. So we'll obviously start with the senior one. Now we said last year's final wasn't hectic. Probably didn't really get up to top gear for too long anyway. No, the Piercy winning that one there back to back. They're going for 3 in a row, Joe. But a lot of people are fancying Doon. I mean, it's probably a rare occasion that people are tipping against the Piercy, but I mean, this is all the ingredients. I think we've obviously the kingpins for the last 10, 12, 15 years now of Limerick, and we have the coming force, I think, of Doon, who are looking to bring that Daily Cup home, and sometimes to win the first one can be the hardest.
Yeah, I suppose, look, Doon have been knocking on the doors, and to be fair to the Doon club and the likes of Brother Dormer and that, there's been a conveyor belt of quality hurlers coming from Doon for as long as I can remember. But they just haven't been able to get over the line. This is probably their best chance, I would think, to get over the line. They've a huge mix of and wealth of experience along with youth coming through, and I think this is probably one of the first years they've been kind of injury free. So I'd be expecting they'll have their full strength team out, and they'd be hoping to, I suppose, Piercy have been at the top kind of for so long. They're hoping they're on the slide, but for Doon to get over the line, Doon will have to perform out of their skins, and probably Napier will have to perform a bit below themselves.
Yeah. Matt, this pairing, I think, as I said, it's probably most intriguing in terms of a team going for 3 in a row, which I think hasn't been done since Adair. Was it 15 years ago now at this stage? And we've Doon, like, but is there something? It's bizarre in a way, maybe, that Napier have kind of flown a little bit under the radar. They haven't been that spectacular along the way. You know, I think maybe the Kilmallock game in the group stage was probably the one performance that really set them apart. But even in the semi-final, they didn't hit the very, very high standards we're used to. So, you know, there's probably an expectation on Doon now that's probably a little bit unfair, maybe because of how Napier have performed so far.
Yeah, but Shane O'Neill will love that situation. That's what you call partly coming in under the radar. But I saw things I thought in the way they dug out the result against Kilmallock. Because with 48 minutes gone, they were 5 points down. And the manner in which they dug it out, now they got a fortuitous goal. Now, I'm not so sure, hadn't they got the goal, that they still wouldn't have won. Because it's their ability and the experience that they have garnered over the years to dig themselves out of corners and tight situations. And they were in a tight situation in that. Now, I agree totally with you that there is no way that Napier have hit top form yet this year. And the big question is, will they do it on Sunday, or have they regressed somewhat? You know, and that's the question that I can't answer. And the only people that will answer it is Napier themselves on Sunday. No, but I think there's something about Doon this year. And as Joe says, by God, if any team deserves it, you know, to be in a final, first of all, and to get an injury-free run, secondly, because their entire defence was out last year. Entire defence. Like, if you take your 2022 team and somebody says to you, your 6 backs aren't going to be available next year,
yeah,
I'll tell you, you'd go out with your heart in your boots, like, wouldn't you? But I think there's a new confidence about him this year, and any time I saw him, and another thing that strikes me about Doon this year, in all the games, and I if you'd agree with me on this, Joe, all their big players have stood up, big time, and led from the front, none more so than their captain, Darragh O'Donovan.
Yeah, Darragh's been superb this year. It looks like, Matt, he's got a completely different role. He's playing more of a defensive kind of. He's the go-to ball, the out ball, and he delivers then the type of ball. And we all know how Limerick's in hurlers missed his influence around the middle of the field. This year, the forwards probably weren't getting fed the type of ball that they want. And if anybody knows how to feed proper ball into a forward, it's Darragh. But he adds that bit of metal then to the thing, you know, his experience. He's probably covering midfield, half back line position as well, and he's got an unbelievable engine. And I know he's been injured most of the county season, so he's probably coming with a bit of hunger and definitely maybe a bit of freshness that he probably hadn't for the last couple of years. Obviously, he was out injured at times in the last couple of years for club and that, but he seems to have come with a new vigor, a new energy, a new kind of, I suppose, freshness. And listen, a day when Darragh O'Donovan is pulling the strings for any team, whether it be at club level or county level, the opposition need to be very, very wary.
Yeah. Joe, like, I think, you know, with his performances with Doon now and his absence with Limerick, we got a sense of what an integral part of the Limerick team he is.
Oh, without a doubt. Look, it was so evident this year. Probably a lot of our problems were second ball this year around our half-back line midfield. And sure, there's no better hurler in the game than Darragh O'Donovan on the second ball. Gather it up, restart attacks, get blocks in, get hooks in when needs be, and disrupt the play. But I just think his distribution was savagely missed this year. The man would put it through the eye of a needle for you, the understanding he has with the players around him. And you know when Darragh Donovan gets a ball, it's coming and it's coming right. And I suppose the kind of way he seems to be sitting back in the out ball for the backs, you know, as a backman, if you were coming out and you were under pressure and you see Darragh available, you know you've one job to do and one job only, and that's to get the ball to him. And he will do the rest. He will distribute it. He'll break the line. He'll bring other players into the game. So he is central to that. And I don't know what way the Pearse are going to set up to negate that.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot for the Pearse could be dictated by, you mentioned injuries for Doon there. A lot could be negated by who they are, decided by who they have. I mean, David Dempsey, as some would know him, big absentee in that semi-final. He pulls the strings in that half-forward line. You know, he's always creating something for his team. Adrian Breen played half the game, as in came on for half the game. If he can be up to close full fitness, we know what he's capable of. And if Peter Casey, like, you know, there'll be plenty of rumours, he hasn't played in 6 months. I mean, if you were in Shane O'Neill's position, Joe, and you knew Peter had 15 minutes in him or 10 minutes in him, would you be tending to use that? Because I mean, like, it could be a psychological thing as much as anything. But those three players have the potential to transform the Pearse attack. I think it's fair to say.
Absolutely, and look, they are big game players. Like with the Peter Casey thing, I don't think he's ever going to be just ready for 10 minutes. There's no player just ready for 10 minutes. So if he's ready, I think they won't be holding on to him to try and win the game in the last 10 minutes. I think that could possibly stop him if he's ready to go, or if not, play a significant part in the game. I think it's from a self-care point of view, bringing a lad on for the last 10, 15 minutes that's been out injured with such a horrific injury is probably not going to do him any good. If it was me, I'd be playing him nearly from the start. You know, if he's ready to play the last 10 minutes, why not put him on for the first 10? Do you know what I mean? And see how long he'll go. You put a lad on for 10 minutes, just say he does break down. All of a sudden, then you're only getting a few minutes out of a guy, and you have to make another substitution. So my attitude was, if you're ready to play the last 10, 15, 20 minutes, I think that the greatest impact he could have is in the first, at the start of the game, and let him see how long he'll last. Yeah.
Well, if Peter Casey, I think he was listed as number 28 the last day. If they're walking around behind the band and suddenly there's the very back is Peter Casey, if you're the Doon cornerback, what in God's name would be going through your head? Because, you know, we know when Peter's on it, he is absolute dynamite. Like, I mean, is there a psychological element to this too as well? I think for both teams, you know.
There would be, but I think the Doon lads should be prepared enough. I'm sure they'll have gone through the what-if scenarios. If he is playing, they'll know who's going to be picking him up. And the big thing with that is, and again, I'll go back to what I spoke about, Darragh Donovan, distribution. If you cut off the supply, it doesn't matter whether you've Seamus Flanagan, Aaron Gallagher, anybody inside, Peter Casey. If there isn't quality ball coming in, if the ball being coming in is under pressure, then it gives your backs a fighting chance. But if you stop if you cannot stop the distribution of the ball and quality ball coming in, it doesn't matter. If you've three Richie Englishes trying to mark Peter Casey, you know, he's going to take any back to the cleaners. The quality that he has, if he gets quality ball, there's probably no marking him, as many a cornerback has found out.
Yeah, that's true.
I agree with you, but I thought there was a lack of sharpness, and in the semi-final in the Pearse attack, Dahi Dempsey was a huge loss because he makes so much tick when he's on there, and they were so reliant on Ronan Lynch at midfield for scores. Like, they scored he scored 110 out of what? Out of 114, was it?
116, yeah.
Or 116. You know, that is not the Pearse. you know, and it graphically shows the like of Peter Casey and Dahi Dempsey are. Now, like Dahi Dempsey will probably be okay. The question, and I think I'd agree with Joe. Like if you're fit, you know, and see how long it'll last.
Yeah. It was a hamstring problem, I believe, for Dahi Dempsey. What about at the other end, Joe? The goalkeepers, as I'm sure you'll attest to, have a big role to play. How has Mr. Dowling adjusted to the role? His third season now, his second season with their seniors, and obviously you've Tomas Lynch then for doing two men who've a big role, I think it's fair to say, on Sunday.
Yeah, look, come here. As I always attest that you should always have your best hurler in goals. So that should be no problem to Dowling.
Did anyone ever agree with you?
As I always said, everyone in the pitch has to work on their first touch. A goalie has to work on their touch because they don't get a second one. Your first touch is your only touch. And look, Shane's distribution and everything has been outstanding. The experience he has is really going to stand him. You know, and I suppose he's getting used to playing in goals now. So he's got the experience of it. Tomas Lynch, I suppose, what's it, his third season with them. You know, so it's a big occasion for Tomas to be facing down the Piercy lads if they're at full strength. So they will have a massive bearing on the game. Look, weather conditions, there's so many variables when it comes to county finals. It's how fellas will react, how they wake up feeling in the morning, how the opposition are. Obviously in the Piercy, it won't faze them. They're basically, they can all walk to the match. You know what I mean? It's on their doorstep. They're so used to it. They'll have their set routine and everything. And I suppose Doon's last performance in the county final, I'd be hoping that they'd have that put to bed. They have to get that out of their heads. It was a huge letdown for themselves, and I'd be hoping they'd be using it as a positive in that, yeah, it's motivation for them. Like, they should be the hungrier team. And if they're hungry, they are going to be hungrier if they work harder than the Piercy. And that's something that can be controlled by themselves. If you control the controllables, as they say, their hunger should be there. They should be able to work harder than the Piercy. Now, that's giving you nothing, only a really good fighting chance. But that's what you can control.
I think an important thing might be the matchups. If the line-out is selected, and I suppose the biggest of all would be possibly Adam English and Willem O'Donoghue.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't like to be chasing Adam English around the place. I've always said it. Anybody that'll listen, I've seen Adam English since he was 12 years of age coming up, and to me, he has been the best underage talent, skill-wise and flair-wise, I've seen since Cian Lynch, and that's a fair accolade to have thrown it at him. But I genuinely believe it. I remember watching him over in Newport at secondary school matches, and I remember myself and John Hayes from Cappamore standing alongside each other one day, and we said, if they were charging 20 quid at the gate to come in, it'd be worth the 20 quid to come in and watch this guy. He's just something special. So the Piercy are going to have to come up with a plan for him. Like, if they assign Will to him, does that negate Will's powerful game? Is he marking Adam, or is Adam marking him? Do you know, Adam isn't the type of guy to go and mark a fella. He's the type of fella that will need to be watched. To me, I wouldn't put Will O'Donoghue on Adam English. I'd put someone else on him and allow Will to impose himself on the game in his own way, because I think if he's tied up marking Adam English, I think it'll severely hamper the Piercy.
He'll be dragged around the pitch quite a bit, and he'll see a lot of the Gaelic grounds if he's delegated.
Yeah, if Adam is on form, Will could even see his own back garden if he's living out close, because he will cover some ground.
Yeah,
Like,
He
I
does.
remember someone telling me, it's a good few years ago. I remember the night he played against Clare. Adam got set up a goal, I think. I can't remember who he set it up for. Was it
O'Donnell, I think. Was it
O'Donnell? Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're playing Clare, and they're saying Adam English hasn't the legs. He left the Clare lad for the date over 70 yards. Could have gone for it himself, and just selfishly just laid it off. So anybody that thinks Adam English hasn't the legs, you should send him out for an hour, following him around the field, and I'd say they'd come back with a different opinion.
Yeah, I tell you, I'd struggle to keep up on a bike or even in a car. I'd say with that many. So some set of wheels on him, like, you know. I think the matchup last year that Piercy went with in the semi-final was Emmett McAvoy, and who's, I suppose, more familiar with being a cornerback, but. Top in that battle as we players tired, I should say. But it's the big one for the Piercy to get right, because Adam's fingerprints are all over everything they do. You know, he saw a score the last day. He played a 1-2 with one of his teammates, and he was closely marked when he gave the hand pass, but by the time he got it back, he was 10 or 15 yards away from his man. Like, he has that. So that's the number one, I'd say, item on their defensive task for the Piercy. But in fairness, Doon are able to mix it, aren't they? You know, Kevin Maher is a long ball option. Dara Stapleton inside. They're not a one-trick pony by any means. I think it's fair to say, Joe.
No, look, they've talent all over the field. I'd say probably nearly every one of their panel a bit look like the Piercings have been on county squads at some stage. They've proven themselves so far to get to the final. The big thing, and it's to get the monkey off the back to win one. Come here, the Piercy went that way for a long time, and they won one, and look how they flourished after that. You know, county finals aren't that easily won, so they've had the experience of a flop, you could say, in one. It's time to bottle that now and make sure that it doesn't happen again. And I suppose nearly every club, well, probably not their nearest neighbours, but nearly every club outside will be hoping for a Doon win, you know, to see the thing going round. So it's a lot of this will be won and lost between the 2 years to see how they cope with the pressure and, as I said, work rate and want and will is two things they can outmuscle Piercy gone. Yeah. The talent wise, I'd say it's a flip of a coin, to be honest, between the two teams, but it'll be who will perform on the day, and that is a lottery.
Yeah,
I think it would do a power of good for Limerick Hurling, you know, because, and Doon, as you say, they would be hugely popular winners, in fairness, because, like, not just because they've been, I suppose, because they have been so near so often, and but you know, I think an awful lot of people want to see a break from the Piercy Kilmallock Patrick's Well axis. You know, I think it's very important for the county that we see a new team coming to the top, and it's not just a new team, but as Joe mentioned there, it's a team that has contributed so much to the county at all levels over the years. You know, but for some reason weren't able to translate it into winning a county championship with that club. But they seem this year to have they seem to have got nearly everything right this year, and I honestly think that they have a real this could be their day.
Yeah, I think the blip against the hand was that I think that was probably the kick in the arse that they needed, and I think it was their refocus moment, and I think that might have helped them. You know, that it probably killed any complacency, because they had been absolutely flying it, and that kind of set them back. But I think go back training after that, to me, it should be hit the reset button and go again. And look, they've done it.
They've done it, Joe, and they've done it very convincingly, because I suppose you know, when you suffer a defeat like that, you want to get out and play as soon as possible. But they had to wait while there was a quarter-finals being played and then taking on a team that had a quarter-final under their belt. But by God, I'll tell you, them, the way they hit Patrick Swell in the first 20 minutes, 15 points to 2, was simply phenomenal. It was one of the most, complete performances of hurling, of 20 minutes of hurling that you could imagine. And if they do something similar in the Gaelic grounds on Sunday, I think the title will be heading east.
Yeah, I think it's time now. After all the discussion, lads, I cannot decipher which way you're going. I think Matt is leaning with Doon, but Joe, if you flipped your coin, which way did it fall?
I would say, is there extra time the weekend?
Oh, we're going all the way to the dreaded penalties if we have to.
Yeah, because there's Munster Championship the following week.
Okay, so I'll go Doon, a narrow Doon win after extra time.
Right, well, you don't get much more specific than that. Matt, how are you feeling?
Adam English to score the winner.
Oh, well, there we go. So it's by a point.
I'm going for Doon by 2 points.
Doon by 2. Oh, I've been flip-flopping all week, lads. I don't know. I'll probably lean with Napiershig. I'm just going to stick with
the fence, Tom, you'll get splinters.
Yeah. City divisional bias, someone who partook in that division underage anyway for bits and pieces. I'll lean with Napiershig, probably just on their experience. But I tell you this, I'm really looking forward to this one. It should be an absolutely classic game in the Gaelic grounds, I hope anyway. 4:15 on Sunday, yeah, Matt?
Like you, I have flipped on it every time I think about it. If you probably asked me in 5 minutes' time, I'd probably say Napiershig. I think more about it, But it's that delicately poised, like, in fairness,
It is, yeah. And I suppose the symmetry, maybe Napiershig, their first county final, I suppose before they won their first county, wasn't it? Adair beat them. They only managed to score 3 points. They were, I think, a little bit embarrassed by it, and they came back, was it maybe 3 years later, and got that one over the line. So maybe something similar here for Doon. It was 27 points is the margin. They completely ran away from them in the second half in the 2020 final. So they'll be hoping, as maybe Joe alludes to there, the bit of motivation. Okay, that's the senior final. I think we need to look down the grade. And Joe, as someone that's West Limerick in the veins, Newcastle West against Gary Spillane. This is another tasty. This is a nice little curtain raiser, I think it's fair to say. Newcastle West hoping to get back to the senior grade. I'm not sure when they were last there. I was told today it was around about 1990, so it's a long time. Certainly in these formats they haven't been at the top table. So
Newcastle West were in 1990.
I'm told, but I'm not sure if one of you can confirm. It was probably when it was divisional.
No Premier in 1990.
Sorry.
There was no
last time they were senior, Matt.
Last time they were senior, yeah.
Oh, senior, sorry,
divisional would have been in the West Division at the time, I'm sure. But anyway, it'd be a big step for them as a club now. Obviously, they lost their senior football championship at the weekend, but be a big step for them, Joe, if they could get the better of the Bouncers on Sunday.
Yeah, I suppose. Look, it's a huge thing for both teams. You're talking about the Bouncers being
back,
former county champions, at senior level. So they want to get back up there again, and to be fair, they have a huge amount of work done underage over the last few years, and I suppose they have the guile and craft of a couple of rogues involved in the club as well. So
don't be naming names now, Joe.
I won't mention any names, and there'll be no need to.
You know who they are.
We get the message.
But yeah, look, it's massive for Newcastle West. There's a huge population there, but there isn't a huge playing population there. They struggled for years. At times, like, football is the dominant sport out there. So from the hurling fraternity side of it, it'll be massive to get them back up playing senior again. And if it is, Jesus, it's that long ago I would have played against them at senior level in the West Championship. So it's massive for both teams. Look, if I was asked to call it, I'd probably go with the guile of the boys from the south.
Right.
They'll concoct some plan to win it, but I think it should be looking at the previous results, it should be a very, very close game again.
Yeah.
I honestly think it is, you know, it is very, very important from a Limerick hurling perspective, you know, because we have the biggest division in our county, if there'll be divisions anymore after the way it's going. But as of now, like, you have only Adair who are on the periphery of West Limerick that have been senior. And I think it is very important, you know, that the county town, you know, the capital town of our county would be playing at senior level. I think it's very, very important. And like Derry McMahon was stressing the importance of it to me in the last week about, you know, the dream is that Newcastle West would be a double senior club or a dual senior club, you know, and they're one step away from it now. And like they missed out last year, of course, on the semi-finals. Now they've you know, their trajectory has been very, very good for the last 5 years. They lost the 2019 final, intermediate final to Glenroe. They came back the following year and they won it, the intermediate final, and were promoted premier. They reached the semi-finals in 2021 and 22, but missed out on the semi-final last year on a head-to-head by a single point, you know. So I think that was a huge motivating factor for Newcastle West when they came in into the championship this year and racked off 6 straight wins. You know, you don't do that by accident. And like, you know, they got over the first 1 or 2 rounds and really drove on then, and really drove on. And just like Joe was talking about Doon, getting a wake-up call from a hand, Newcastle West got a wake-up call just at the right time against Blackrock. And ironically, it was Blackrock that you know, that they lost out and the head-to-head last year by a point, and Blackrock beat them again by a point this year. But like, you know, it because they were facing an effing team for the second time in 4 weeks. And you know how hard it is to beat a team a second time in the championship. And I think that wake-up call was huge for Newcastle West. And, you know, they got over the, I think they got over the semi-final quite impressively, you know, and it, you know, you know, their progress to where they are has been gradual. So in my opinion, it's sustainable. You know, and this could very well be their year.
Good. Joe, would there be well wishes, I'm sure, around the West for Newcastle West? You know, I know it's obviously football clubs predominantly, but like, would people love to see another senior club from that division, as Matt says, you know, to be at the top table? I think it would be good, and this not discounting the bouncers, but it would be good to see someone from the West, you know, coming up and mixing it with the big boys.
Absolutely. Look, as Matt said there, go back when I was playing with Fiohana, ourselves, Killeedy, Newcastle, Granabellangary, Tournafulla, we're all playing senior. There was, you know, and you have some of them clubs playing junior now. There's some playing intermediate, you know, and it's, as I said, for the biggest club division in the county. And Matt alluded to it there, I suppose you need your county town to be, I suppose, driving it on. Kilmallock would probably be the next county town, probably after Newcastle West, and they've driven it on over the years. So I suppose it's good for hurling in the West to promote it. You know, I suppose a lot of the clubs in the West have been decimated by immigration and urbanization and people moving to cities and stuff like that, but there seems to be a bit of a resurgence again with lads moving home again or moving to their own parishes again. So look, I suppose the more competition you have locally within clubs and rivalries within clubs at the top level, the better the thing is for everyone. So it would be massive, I suppose, and especially the fact that they lost out in the football last weekend, so they're not trying to balance both.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, and I think if you look at the hurling side of things, you mentioned maybe the participation levels. Now, I think that as a club, those who play both generally and underage, but obviously they could garner so much more interest in the game if they were senior, and the scenes that will invariably follow if they do win on Sunday. That's a shot in the arm for the all the development teams they have underneath as well. If they do get it. Yeah, Matt?
They have a huge crossover, but with the spare a thought for Gary Spillane, they were relegated last year, and it's difficult to pick yourself up after that. And now Gary Spillane took a momentous decision back in 2017 when they opted to go to play Premier Minor Hurling, and they won back-to-back Premier Minor Championships. But unfortunately, there's only about 4 or 5 of those players playing now. So it's underage success, as Abbey Field or Father Casey's would protest anyway, is no guarantee of senior success. There's many a slip between cup and dip in the transition from minor to senior, or Premier Intermediate, or for that matter, adult hurling. But what has been very, very good to Gary Spillane, I think, is the presence of John the Baptist School beside him. Now, there are 4 or 5 lads that will be lining out on Sunday that have All-Ireland medals with John the Baptist from 2017 when they won the All-Ireland B colleges. There'll also be a couple of players lining out on Sunday that are currently involved with John the Baptist in the Harty Cup. It's a very, very young Gary Spillane team. Very, very young Gary Spillane team. Now, they didn't have the most impressive of campaigns in that they won the first 2 rounds by a single point, both of them, against Blackrock and against Effin, but then suffered 2 defeats to Granabel the newcomers, and to Newcastle West. And it'll be very, very interesting to see how that defeat to Newcastle West will play out on Sunday in the rematch. It might be difficult to get the better of Gary Spillane for a second time. They're a very, very young team, a hungry team. A lot of the lads that were involved when they shifted those 7 goals to South Liberties in what was a de facto relegation playoff last year, have moved on.
Yeah.
So this is one I find extremely, extremely, extremely hard to call. Extremely hard to call. And of course, as Joe rightly said from the outset, there's characters. I suppose he called them rogues. There's a character or 2 involved with Gary Spillane.
There is. It's from what I've seen, and I haven't seen an awful lot of this grade. I think I've seen both teams. I've seen Newcastle West only in the semi-final, and the Bouncers 2 or 3 times before that. Completely different style. Newcastle West like to run the ball, short stick passing, short hand passing. The Bouncers, there's a fair bit of old school in there, if you want to call it that. They like to go direct. Colin Ryan is in at the edge of the square. He's joined by 1 or 2 others. They like to get it in early, and I don't see too many tactics boards on the sideline with the Bouncers, but I tell you, they're all singing off the same hymn sheet. I think it's fair to say they know what they're trying to achieve. And look, it would be great to see a club showing the way in terms of bouncing back, because we've seen clubs come out of senior, and it can be a very, very long road back. I'm conscious, lads, of the time. And
I gave you an interesting statistics about it. I think a couple of weeks ago, Tom. In 2018, Gary Spillane won the Premier Intermediate. Galbally won the Intermediate football. The
double is still on, so
they're going for a double. Mark Quinlan played every single minute of both the hurling and football.
Right.
He went down. He went down on the Sunday to play Clonea in the first round of the Munster Clubs Championship. They got beaten. He was taken off with 20 minutes to go. He came back to the Gaelic grounds on Wednesday evening and captained Gary Spillane to win the Premier Minor Hurling Championship.
Right. So a key cog in the wheel.
He's not as involved with the football this year. He's more involved with the hurling on account of being with the Limerick senior squad.
Yes, yeah. Well,
and you showed the rumours, Matt, that Donny Ryan might be an impact sub.
Well, when it comes to Donny Ryan, you cannot discount anything.
Yeah. He could be impacting his subs, with the Rowan Fountain. I don't know.
Whether it's club or not, he's going to be impacting anyway.
Yeah, that's it. Well, we'll see him. The technical areas are very long in the Gaelic ground, so he'll be getting every inch of him.
So is the stand.
Yeah, he could be inside there. Yeah,
his Fitbit will be working overtime.
Yeah, very good. Okay, we'll look at the other grades now in a second, but best wishes to the 4 teams on Sunday, and we must also at this point acknowledge the referees, John O'Halloran Senior and his officials, and also Eamon Stapleton of Doon. Is looking after the Premier Intermediate, his second final in a row. So best wishes to both lads and indeed their team of officials. Hopefully all will go smoothly for them. Joe, a couple of weeks ago you were probably dreaming of the dream final, or would it be the nightmare final? I don't know which, but potentially as intermediate, it was your two clubs, your old club and maybe your adopted club, potentially could have met, but it didn't pass, and it's the Croke Kilfinney got the better. I'm trying to think who beat who now. There's so many games in my head, but Croke Kilfinney got the better.
My own lads were beaten by Brewery last weekend. So
yeah.
Or 2 weekends ago.
Yeah, that's it. So it sets up a final. How would you approach that a final now? Briefly, look, I know it didn't happen, but it would have been a strange one.
I've only one way. I've 2 lads involved with Maru, so I think I'd have to keep my allegiances with the kids, or I'd be dismembered. So I would. But something similar happened back when the first year I transferred to Maru in '99. We were playing in one semi-final, and Fiona were in the other semi-final. Now, Knockany beat Fiona in that semi-final, and we got to the final and beat Knockany. So, but in your first year after transferring, the last thing you'd need is to be playing against your own home club and most of them your relations.
Yeah, like good friends and relations and all the rest of it. Yeah, geez, that
look, I suppose with regards to that, everybody knows Croke's path of the last few years. They just haven't been able to get over the line. I saw Marubor. I was away for the semi-final, but our match against Brewery. But I saw him playing in the last round robin part of it against Brewery, and I think we were through, and Brewery needed to win or draw to go through that day. But Brewery were very impressive that day. It looked like a team. A lot of the lads around were saying, "Oh, sure, we were through," but Brewery there seemed something different about them. They were very, very well organised on the line. They had fellas all over the pitch. They were tuned in. They just seemed like a team on a mission that probably had timed their run right. Yeah. And they're as big, strong a physical team as I've seen. They're huge men. They're powerful men. Will the baggage, and it has to be baggage at this stage, will the baggage affect Croke? As Matt says, no one will know until they'll take to the field and the result will be seen. But it's very hard to keep going to the well and going to the well and going to the well if you don't eventually get water out of the well. So that'll be, I suppose, an added pressure on them. And I don't think Brewery will have. I suppose the last couple of years, the talk has been Brewery were probably one of the favourites over time, and that, but I think their time might be now.
Right. Yeah.
I think there. Joe said it all really, but he mentioned one word in particular in relation to Brewery, and that is team. Team. They play as a team, and I saw him playing earlier this year now, and don't ask me to put my finger on it, but I saw something about him. I said that I concluded that they were definitely going in the right direction. Yeah. And like the win over Maru Bohor and in the group stages could have been discounted for the simple reason that Maru Bohor were through to the semi-final anyway. But nobody can discount when they won it when it was an absolute knockout. Because the narrative coming into that semi-final was that it was Maru Bohor's to lose. Like, Brody have come under the radar. Now, a fourth final in a row, how it's going to affect Croke Kilfinny, I simply don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah, it's even the fifth. I know they won the junior A, the delayed junior A in the summer. It was probably the early part of the summer, wasn't it, of 2021? It was the 2020 final. And then they used that momentum to get to the intermediate final. Who beat them that year? Glenroe, was it?
The intermediate final, Effin beat them the first year.
Effin, then to the
the second year, and Granabel and Gary last year.
Yeah, and they haven't been eclipsed by much in any of these games. I mean, it took late Luke Flynn scores last year to see them off, and I think the same from the Pierce the previous years. But yeah, it's so hard to know where they'll be mentally. As Joe says, how many times can you go back to the well before eventually you just say, I'm sick of this, you know? It's you know, and Brewery will play probably with that freedom, because maybe there wasn't an awful lot expected of them. I know Joe was saying that maybe they were underperforming, but even then, all the talk during the championship was probably it could be a Maru Boher Croke Kilfinny final, you know. But in fairness to Brewery, they've ripped that script well and truly up, you know. So
and Maru Boher beat Croke Kilfinny in the first round, actually. I think it's the only defeat that they have suffered in the current campaign, which was typical of their campaigns back along. You wouldn't need one hand at all since they came up to intermediate to count the number of... Kilmarnock beat them in the last round last year when it didn't matter to them.
Yeah,
they had already been...
I don't think anyone beat them the year before, in the group anyway. Yeah. No, they've been very steady.
It's that final hump that seems to be, you know, that seems to be the biggest obstacle, you know.
Mm-hmm. And it is good though to see. Obviously, Croke had never won a county title until that one I mentioned a minute ago. It's good to see a club like that has put their hand up, but also I think it's good to see a club like Brewery, who, as we know, you were mentioning, Joe, county champions. It was 2005, I think, was it, or 2006? I was mixing those years up, themselves and the Bouncers.
They won it. You know, they won it in 2006, and they have a survivor from 2006 that will be hopefully lining out on Saturday evening, Kieran O'Rourke at cornerback.
Right.
Still plying his trade with him.
Yeah, that's so many things. But it's good to see a club, you know, as we say, a bit like Maru Boher and other clubs, have fallen a couple of rungs of the ladder, but have potentially now an opportunity to climb back up on them. It's good to see, because, you know, some clubs, once the bleeding starts, it can be very hard to stop it. But in fairness to Bury, they're showing a bit of bounce back ability. So how do you see it, Matt, on Sunday or Saturday? That one isn't it? That's the late game on Saturday.
You know, I fancied Croke Kilfinny. I'd probably be a magpie for him now. I didn't fancy him against Effin in the first final. I fancied him to beat Na Piarsaigh, and I fancied him to beat Granabel and Gary, and they didn't do any of them.
You leave him alone, Matt, will you? Give him a break.
I'll tell you, you'll have a good day's work done when you're Brewery beaten.
Yeah. In fairness, that's all I'm hearing. They'll be very hard beaten in the final. Joe, I don't know, have you seen enough of these teams to really give a verdict? But how would you see it anyway?
Well, I've seen Maru Boher playing both.
Right.
And to be fair, probably the first day against Maru Boher, Croke had the game in their grasp and let it go. But after seeing Brewery the first day, when they had to win and when the chips were down, okay, they had to win, we hadn't to win. Yeah. But they're after winning 3 have to win matches in a row now.
Yeah, any in between, isn't it?
Yeah. So they'll be hard bait. I think I'd give Brewery the nod.
Okay, right. Well, I'm surprised a little bit by that, but we'll see. I'd be leaning with Croke Kilfinny, but in fairness, I haven't seen Brewery in the flesh now. I saw Croke Kilfinny on one of the worst days of weather we've seen in a while against Cappamore in the quarterfinal. Saw the majority of that one, but they looked impressive there, but playing with an absolute gale behind them. So that's that one.
You know, with Croke Kilfinny, you just don't know, has it been bad luck in finals or what? Like you just mentioned there about Luke Flynn, like he came out, he got 2 monstrous points that nobody would have been expected in that final, and it turned the game. You know, or is it that they just have got this thing about a final? You know, would you say to yourself, the manner in which they won the junior championship of 2020 and 2021, that, you know, that they would be that wouldn't be the problem?
Yeah.
You know, and like, what are the players saying to themselves this week? You know, it's so difficult. You know, you lose 3 finals and you're heading into a 4th final. I don't think it's easy.
No, it's not. Well, we'll see how it goes. They do, Matt, as you were joking the other day about Ballybrown, it's Ballybrown on the line, James Hall, who would have won it back in 2012 at Ballybrown. So he'll probably be hoping to tap into his experience of that and get them over the line in the intermediate grade. Okay. Finally, just to briefly look at the other 2 games, the other 2 finals the weekend, lads. The Premier Junior A is a certain St. Patrick's against Fina Kilmeedy. Of course, as Joe, you remember, they're beating it on penalties in last year's final. You know, the West versus the City, it'll be, I suppose, will be a lot of the talk out of this one is what can Grode Hegarty do? But in fairness, Fina Kilmeedy, their semi-final victory over Knockaderry, I think was it 20 points in the end, and you know, they put up a massive score. They seem to be the farm team of the championship again.
Yeah, look, I suppose they're still hurting from last year. I think they feel they left that after them. They had plenty of opportunities to win that. So I think the hurt is there for them. It depends on what Garrod Hegarty turns up on the day. I've seen Garrod at that level a few times, and if he hits top form, there's nobody to stop him. So, and it's a bit disingenuous, I suppose, to the rest of the St. Pat's players. And that,
but he is their talisman. Like, you know, I think that there's no other way of putting it. You know, he's like one of the best players in the country, and he's playing at that grade. It's obvious he is the man, and his brother is part of the supporting cast. You know, if you want to put it that way, like, and he's talented too. It's fair to say, Dermot. Yeah.
How the 2 of them perform will have a huge bearing on the outcome. You know, but I think the hurt from last year, I think might get Fina Kilmeedy over the line.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a huge build-up of hurt in it has to be in Fina Kilmeedy. They lost the 2 junior finals last year, and then they lost the Munster final in hurling. You know, and they are a very, very good side, and I think they're going to be very hard to beat on Saturday. I think that they're going to be very, very hard to beat. You know, it's obvious the way that they've played that they have parked the disappointment of last year. I know it may not be easy, but they obviously have it done, and you know, the Hegartys are absolutely massive, and I think they play as a midfield partnership for St. Pat's. And it's not too long ago since St. Pat's they won the intermediate championship about 5 or 6 years ago. They beat Kilmallock after a second replay.
The junior championship, was it, or intermediate?
Yeah.
Junior.
Junior. It went to 3 games, but you know, obviously, from a hurling point of view in the city, it would be massive for Pats, and there's huge credit due to Pats, like, because you have the huge clubs around them. You have Monaleen just over the road. You have Na Piarsaigh, you have Ballybrown. Like, they're in with the big guns, and they're in with the tradition of Clahan, but by God, they keep punching. And some might say punching above their weight, but by God, you know, there's great credit due to Pats.
Yeah. And finally, the grade below it, the Rathkeil and Monaleen. In fairness to Monaleen, it's their second team. Won the Junior B last season. I enjoyed the Munster campaign and ended up in the All-Ireland. They've used that momentum beautifully again, Matt, and they'll face Rathkeil in Bruff early on Saturday. So, chance for back-to-back promotions. A rare enough feat, I think it's fair to say, across any grades of hurling, in fairness to them.
Yeah. A couple of players like that were on that team last year, Noel Clancy and Ben Hayes, have made, you know, progress onto the senior team this year very satisfactorily. What about Damien Cosgrave, touching on 30 years in adult hurling? You know, so I saw him a number of times last year. I saw him right through the Killeedy campaign, and I thought they were very, very good. And I came to the conclusion after it, you know, that they wouldn't be at all out of place in junior hurling in Limerick, in the Limerick Championship. So that has come to pass. And they face a Rathkeale team. Rathkeale now, they're going for a double. It's fantastic for Rathkeale. They're going for a hurling and a football double. The Junior A Hurling Championship and the Intermediate Football Championship. It's great times in Rathkeale now. They have huge crossover. I'm told there are as many as 18 players that are involved in both squads, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, it is. Joe, down these grades, it's all about a county final, isn't it? I know Rathkeale is, it is a town, but I suppose they're as a club, and you mentioned West Limerick clubs losing players, but for them guys, whether it's hurling, soccer, rugby, whatever, they will do anything for their local club, and this is a great opportunity for Rathkeale, as Matt said, to pick up some silver, and it's a bond and a memory then for these lads for life if they can win it, and some people might be dismissive if it's been a Junior A title, but it's nevertheless important to these players.
Come here, that title to them on the weekend is going to be as important as an All-Ireland Senior Hurling title to them, because that's the only match in town this weekend as far as they are concerned. Yeah. So, look, I haven't seen any of the two teams playing. I suppose I'd have an affiliation with Rathkeale. My own nephew Damien played with Rathkeale for years. So I suppose I'd be hoping to give the nod to Rathkeale. Hopefully, if we get all our predictions, myself and Matt right, and you get them all wrong, Tom, because you're kind of gone against us. We'll either be the heroes or we'll be the Jonas of tipping. But look, to be great, to be a huge boost for the Rathkeale club. They've lost a lot of players to surrounding clubs over the years as well. And there's the real stalwarts of GA are still trying to keep Rathkeale afloat, or Rathkeale GA afloat, and as Matt said there, to have a chance of winning a double, it'll be massive for the club.
Yeah, it would be certainly using the momentum for one for the other, but that's set for 12:30 start in Bruff on Saturday, the Junior A Championship. So that's it, an exhaustive enough list, I think, or an exhaustive look at the 5 finals. Thanks very much, Joe, for your time. I think you probably you thought you wouldn't need the lights, but it's gone so dark now since we started.
I know, yeah.
You've been
You're fading into the darkness, Joe.
Yeah.
Look, come here. I look a lot better in the dark, Matt.
Very good. Well, look, we'll have the check in the post anyway for the overtime, but fair play to you anyway. Thanks for...
No bother, lads. A pleasure as always.
Thanks very much, Joe.
For contribution. I hope you enjoyed it. Some of your predictions won't be right. All right. Thanks a million, Joe.
Good luck.
Joe came on at very short notice, as you know. I met him last night casually out, and I said to him, "Will you come on the podcast tomorrow evening?" And I will. He said, "No problem."
Really obliged. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, and we got a lot more than we bargained for there with him. Yeah, and always good to cracking out a joke or two. Matt, I think that's plenty covered this week. I'm sure people will appreciate the reason for the longer show. We wanted to give the time to the lower grades as well across the hurling finals, and I'm sure we're wishing all 10 teams, the match officials, everyone involved, a very enjoyable, successful weekend. Obviously, 5 teams will not be successful in their ultimate goal, but hopefully a performance and a spectacle to be proud of for all involved. I think we'll be hopefully getting 5 cracking games across the grade over the weekend.
Well said, Tom, and I hope the spectators get to as many of them as possible in this hurling mad county. But please, heavens oblige.
Yes. Oh, that's the one thing we're wishing everyone else the best, and we want the weather to shine down upon us. Well, thanks a million, Matt, as always this week. Thanks to you for listening. Do let us know who you'll be shouting on over the weekend. If it's your own club, we'd love to hear from you, and indeed not, if you're a neutral who's no longer neutral and you're leaning with one team over the other, we'd love to hear who you think will win these finals.